Hey everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and the Indie Show, where we talk about stuff Jason should have read a long time ago, but just now getting around to. So tonight we are talking Fables Volumes 4 and 5, and I have my usual panel for Fables with me tonight. First up, we got the unruliest of simians. What's going on, my friend?
Peace, good people.
Thank you for hanging out with me again tonight. Next, we have a twofer. We got Sharon and Rena. What's going on, ladies?
Hello. How are you?
I am doing good. How are you guys doing?
We are good. We are good.
You guys looking forward to this?
Oh, always. Always.
Nice.
It's always a good time to hang out with you guys.
Make John.
Well, it's definitely a good time to hang out. And then, of course, last and least, we got John.
Oh, hey. Hello. I just was enjoying some light reading. How are you doing?
We're here. I am doing good. How are you guys doing today? Everybody have a good, well, Unruly and I had long days, but everybody else have good days. So
It was a good day. Yeah.
it was a good day.
Actually, Rena had a fabulous day. Rena had an amazing day today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, well, because she is going to do a virtual live. So a bookstore called her and set up a virtual signing for October 20th.
Very cool. Very cool, Rena. That is
and
awesome.
she also got her first in-person signing for
On October
November
21st.
No, November 20th.
Yeah,
right.
that's what I said. November
You
21st.
said October.
Did I really?
Yeah.
Oops.
Cool.
Anyway, so lots of good things happening for my girl. I'm very excited.
That is awesome. That
Yes.
is awesome. So,
Thank
well, tonight, though, we're going to talk about Fables and how terrible these stories are. No. So, I will admit, John had to push me to keep me going on Fables after Volume 1 because I did not enjoy Volume 1. But it has steadily gotten better, and I will say, I don't know, well, Volume 5 is probably not better, but Volume 4 is definitely, I think, the best of the volumes we've read so far, at least for me. We'll see what everybody else thinks here in a minute. So, well, let's just start there. What do you guys, Unruly, what do you think of these two volumes as part of the overall story? I know you've read the whole thing. Where do these kind of fit for you? What do you think about these two volumes?
4 is fabulous. 5, isn't that the like little it starts off with little filler stories about what Bigby did in the war, and then it Snow and the kids at the farm. 4 is great. 4 is great. But you ain't seen nothing yet.
What about you guys? What about Sharon and Rena, who's probably already read the whole thing or just skipped to the very last volume?
Actually, no, not this time.
What were your guys' impressions of volumes 4 and 5?
5 was the first time that I disliked Snow. I thought she was such a jerk in 5.
And we both
And
hated
5? I'm trying to think of what that moment will be. We'll have to get there. But
Yeah.
We both hated 4.
4 was so dark and gory and bloody and
wow. Okay.
no.
Well, we have to have different opinions.
I mean, there were elements that were definitely intriguing and interesting and cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just took so long for them to get to the point, and anyway, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, John, what do you think about volumes 4?
John's like, oh, you hit it down, man.
John's like speaking terms.
I don't have a lot to say about these. I don't really. No, I mean, look, I've always kind of felt 3 was my favorite because it really kicks off in a nice way the romance of Bigby and Snow, and I've always really appreciated that storybook romance for that. But a ton of their relationship happens here in 4 and 5. A ton of the building stones of kind of what's going to be their future, and I mean, I love both. I think they're both just exceptional. I love the little stories that start volume 5 off. I like seeing what Cinderella's up to. I love the World War II. I mean, it totally took me back to Frankenstein versus the Wolfman. I freaking love that. Like that. So for me, like I dig all of it. I can separate it out just like I can separate out moments of the Two Towers from Fellowship of the Rings or what. I can kind of do those kind of things. So I feel like this is Volume 4. I think is a very Two Towers-esque piece. It's very the Battle of Helm's Deep, and you get the Battle of Fabletown, and for me, it's not the culminating event in any way, but it's the first big war.
Right.
Yeah. Well, before we go any further, I don't know. I'm apparently out of practice because I did not shout out this chat at all. So we're going to do that real quick. Ruben Guzman was tailgating. Hopefully he is back. What's going on, Ruben? We had some Rena and Life with Two YouTubers and Unruly Simeon. What's going on, Kurt? Hanging out. Comics Will Break Your Heart. Thank you for joining us. Some John guy in here. I don't know. I tell you, it's mostly just Corvidal. What's going on? Thank you for hanging out with us. So that looks like about it. So mostly just us so far, but that's okay. So, what are my cat's thoughts? My cat is, you need to pay attention to me right now because instead of the camera, it's what my cat's thoughts are. So.
My theory on that is that there's a lot of YouTubers who have this problem. My theory is that the cat is worried about you because you're talking to nobody, and they're like, "Why are you talking to nobody?" They think you're lonely or that there's something wrong, so they're like, "Hey, dude, don't talk to nobody. I'm right here. Like it's all good."
That could be.
Right. I talk to my cats all day long, so I mean.
So there you go. All right. Well, we have shouted out the chat. We have talked about my cat. Let's dig into Volume 4, which is the first volume that Rita and Sharon did not like, and easily the first volume where I felt was finally invested in characters other than Snow and Bigby. That was my biggest drawback from the first 3 volumes. And by Volume 3, it was better. And that story is so good of them and everything else that I was better. But this is the first time I really felt invested in the rest of Fabletown in any way, shape, or form. I just didn't care about the stakes for any of the rest of them up until this point.
Super chat from Rob.
Oh, thank you, Rod. That's amazing, sir. Thank you. That is awesome. Yeah, so, and it starts with, we get a little bit of a flashback on Blue, and that they all have a remembrance day that we got in Volume 1, and then there's this separate remembrance day for the last group that had come across, that he is a part of, and we get kind of his backstory. So let's just start there. What do you guys think of this backstory? John talked about Helm's Deep. Well, this was sort of a Battle of Helm's Deep kind of story here, right at the beginning of Blue and all these characters that we see briefly, Robin Hood, and that we haven't seen, and what happened to them. So what do you guys think about this and his backstory with Red Riding Hood? Start with Unruly. What's your thoughts about this little side flashback?
It's excellent. I like the change up in art, and you're coming at this fresh, which is, it's odd to me because I've read this several times over many years. So, but it's cool to hear your takes. But I'm like, what do you mean you're not invested in the characters? Because by the end of this, make no mistake, this is an epic.
John,
and by the end of this, you know every character's foibles, and you get a little bit of all of them, and it's very, very interesting. But that you're right. I never thought about the Lord of the Rings comparison. That's very apt. And mainly I like how Blue got some on the night before the big battle. That was hey, when you see, as you get to know him through the series, that's a well-deserved moment of happiness for him.
Yeah.
I love this series so much. I don't know that I can look at it with a critical eye. I mean, to me, this is what comics are about. I'm literally, and there's a half a dozen series that do this to me that I just, then when other people point out their flaws, I just think, you're crazy, man. That's crazy talk. and this is one of them.
I am Gore. Like I said, I have come around on it. Like, I honestly did not like Volume 1 at all. Volume 2 was better, but just kind of okay. Volume 3 I did really enjoy. Volume 4, like I said, this is the first time that I was like felt invested beyond Bigby and Snow in any way, shape, or form. Like, for me. So I have come around on it. And then Volume 5 I thought was good. It continued to be much better than the first 2 volumes, just for me personally. Sharon and Rena, what do you guys think of the little Blue backstory here at the beginning of this one?
I actually liked the backstory on Blue. He's been around so much in the background, and you've been really curious as to what his story is. And you feel so bad for him. He's so sad. And then of course you find out why he's so sad. So yeah, Blue, he does not have a good time in this book at all, except in the beginning that Unruly pointed out. But he finds love, and he's so courageous. He's so gutsy. And I had remembered, John, you saying that he was actually one of your all-time favorite characters
because he got a bigger story arc.
Well, and I was curious about that, because when you said that he and Flycatcher, is that his name, Flycatcher, was also one of your favorite characters. So I was really excited to see, that part. So no, I definitely enjoyed the backstory on Blue for sure. What about you?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it a little bit. I'm like, why? But, because it's like, I want to get back to the main story and figure out what's happening. But no, it is definitely interesting, especially when you see, what life looked like, before they moved and before everything happened. And you see so many different faces, and it kind of resonates, with the character and as with the reader, kind of a better understanding of what happened and, like why they are the way they are. So no, I actually enjoyed his backstory as well. I thought it was, a good slice of information for him as a character.
Well, and even like the little side bet, you had Robin Hood in there. And I mean, like, if you're paying attention to the background, how Robin Hood has to wear the dress because he loses the bet and that kind of thing. So you really have to pay attention to what's going on in the background too. You can't just blow through it and be like, oh, well, this is this or that. If you pay attention, there's so much more going on in the background than you think.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, John? Where you've talked about?
I'm not gonna. There's not gonna be a lot of times where I'm just like, I don't like it. So yeah, obviously, I really love it, and I think it works especially well for this story because it's the setup, right? As much as this feels like, it's just a slice of life, like the Remembrance Day and how Remembrance Day might affect certain characters. It's actually setting up the return of Riding Hood in the next storyline. And if you didn't have this backstory, that whole thing wouldn't play the same way. I love it. I love that the art style is different, like Simeon is saying. I love that you get little moments like that. The knight who's all by himself at the end, the last knight sort of saving the day, and how how Marion is throwing her spear to kill the horrible general of the army on the other side, and then how you feel like, hey, no, there's one knight left, and he's like unbeatable. He can't be stopped. And then of course the dragon comes in and finishes him off. Because I get that this is a sadder volume. I think this is the volume when this becomes a war story, and you realize that these are not just simple little stories. These are refugees who have gone through something really difficult, and they have immigrated across time and space, basically, to find a place of refuge with the hope all of them have of returning to their homes someday. And, I have one of my good friends growing up is Iranian, and his whole family went through something very like this. And, leaving a dictatorship that was so painful and frustrating, and looking back at family and friends in another country and feeling like, I remember what that was like. being there and seeing and knowing those people. And so I appreciate that that's what this volume is about in a big way. Even the second half, when we get Riding Hood showing up and the wooden soldiers and all that kind of stuff, it's very much about having hope to return someday, but having fear that that's just never going to happen.
Yeah. I do find it interesting, like on the back of this, because I was curious that is a one shot that was not in like the regular issues, like because there's this Fables The Last Castle is a one shot that was separate from the run, and I feel like, boy, that not reading that would have definitely left you a little bit confused about what they set up with between him and Ride, as they call her the rest of the story. Like I was like, oh, you would have definitely missed something had you not read that one shot why that was going on.
True, yeah.
So let's move into that. We got the big story arcs here in Volume 4 is Red Riding Hood arrives in our world or into this world and is the first refugee to arrive in almost 100 years. Like, so what do you guys think about this story and how they set up Red Riding Hood and like how this goes down a little bit and her as a character here? Sharon, Rena, you guys want to go this time?
Well, first I kind of want to take a step back and I want to say, like, what was the point of Colin visiting White in her dream? I mean, that was so pointless because she doesn't remember any of it. I mean, I know it's a little bit of foreshadowing for her
she
having
remembers because she's like, she wakes up and like, hello, Colin. Like she just is not sure what it means. Yeah.
But she doesn't really remember much of the dream after, like, she wakes up, right? I mean,
the artist wanted to draw a pig's head on a pike.
That's kind of where I was at. Yeah, yeah. I was like, okay, well, there's the severed pig's head again. Yay! Yeah. Why? But you know, I didn't really understand, you know, the whole refugee part. I mean, are you supposed to assume that Ride killed the goblins and all those people in the car? Is that what happened?
I don't think you know for sure, but yeah, like ultimately they all died. They killed each other, or ultimately, in whichever one survived, she finished off. Is basically what is the way I took it.
When you get the big reveal of who she is, that explains everything.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. That's kind of what I thought, but I wasn't 100% sure. I was kind of like, again, one of those scenes where you're just kind of like, why? But, you know, when she shows up, initially, I was like, oh, yay, she lived. That's like super awesome. You know, you're happy for Blue because he obviously cared for her and he's been devastated all this time that she's dead. So your initial reaction is, yay.
Yeah.
No, I knew she was evil from the get-go. I'm like, why would she just show up? Why would she just show up? That is not how this works. So no, I was suspicious of her from the beginning. And even Bigby was like, yeah, no, something's wrong about this. I'm like, yeah, I'm with Bigby. You know,
I would agree. I was too. I was like, from the beginning, there's like the whole thing with the goblins to me, like, was basically, to me, it was there to put question in your mind about her story. And then when Bigby like questions it, and then the way she reacts to Blue and Bigby's questioning, it's like, okay, there's more going on here than what it seems. This is not just another refugee has made it, that there's something happening with Red.
Yeah, so this little bit right here where she meets Blue for the first time and Riding Hood has this breakdown and runs off, and Snow says, that didn't turn out exactly well. And Bigby is saying, on the contrary, it makes perfect sense. It's precisely the right move for her to make. Like, he gets it. Firstly, I love that we're starting to get the like border panel stuff that is really common throughout the run.
Yeah.
This is happening more and more now. Buckingham is kind of getting into the groove a little bit. And I love those kind of idiosyncratic elements that they use to border the panels. They're you can get more and more of that. But yeah, Bigby yet again, just like in the original storyline of the first trade, is on to the liar like from the jump. And you got to trust Big B's instincts, just like Rena is. Like you got to know that Big B he's not the sheriff for no good reason. He's on it. And I like that he reads people well, and he spots things that other people might miss. So it puts him a fun bit ahead of the game, even though he's got to work his butt off to prove it to everybody, because obviously nobody wants to believe the worst about people. But I love that.
Well, I think the whole reason everyone is kind of, the majority of them are buying into it is their fables, man. Their whole life, their turns on a fortuitous stroke of fortune, Yeah. I mean, they're used to that shit from their own backstories. Hey, some guy gave me some magic beans.
Yeah. I love that sequence in the whole thing where he's trying to sell the beans to another Fable who knows he's full of garbage. And it's just like...
but to your point, and really, they're used to happily ever after. They're not used to the other side of the coin. But for every Snow White, right, or for every Red Riding Hood, there's a big bad wolf who's maybe seen a different side of the fairy tale world. That's not the like happily ever after. It's the you get big stones sewn into your belly and thrown into the river.
Yeah. Well, and it's it's interesting because they all at this point they all know happily ever after isn't really a thing given the way things have went for them, and yet they all still want to believe it because of who they are and that it's supposed to be, but even though it never seems to happen for any of them. So next thing I want to get into is maybe my favorite part of this whole volume, and that is the wooden soldiers. So what was your reaction the first time you started reading the scenes with the wooden soldiers? And I'm going to start with John this time.
I mean, they're hilarious. They're wonderful. They're wonderful henchmen. I think Unruly mentioned something at the beginning about how it's all just starting. Like everything is just beginning at this point.
Yeah,
there's 20-something volumes, and we're on 4. Like it's just starting. And it's like introducing Darth Vader before you get the Emperor, right? You're getting the pieces that are on the table in move. And so the wooden soldiers are a wonderful oddity. The way they talk and call humans meat, and the way they go the whole sequence when they're buying the guns.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Where they want to buy weapons because they're trying to start a war, and they find a gun salesman who tells them there's a waiting period, and they're like, wait, we don't take orders from meat, and then they just. They kill the guy, they strap him to the wall, and they leave a note. And the note's like, "Dear meatheads, we realize this is a vulgar and uncouth land, but from now on, let's try to have better manners towards your superiors." You do and you. They're ridiculous, and they're horrible, and they're also completely captivating because you just don't know what they're going to do next. In the same way that all great villains are somewhat captivating.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much, was it Mr. Smith from The Matrix? Like, the dark suits, the dark sunglasses, the lack of respect for people.
Yes.
Like, you're just meat, and, it's very, but like 1,000 times funnier, like, because of, like, they play all of this up, like, to such a degree, but clearly there's some inspiration from there that like was taken for these guys. I assume timing wise, this is after. I'm pretty sure. But like I just love the whole thing, their interaction with Jack, and just the way they just talk to everyone, and like they're just when they bring after Blue is captured and they bring him back and they're just like, we left this thing alive. Shouldn't you be happy? Like, it's just like they're so ridiculous and yet terrifying, as you said. Like they're, that these like when they get into the actual battle, like what they can do and how they like just start you destroy one and they just use the good parts to build another one, and it's just like, yeah, very very interesting. So what do we think of the reveal of who Red is or who Ride is?
I guess I wasn't familiar with who
I
her
wasn't either. I'll be perfectly
I
honest.
had no idea who she was. So when they did the big reveal, I was like, meh, I don't care. I mean, I was more bummed out because you think, okay, is Geppetto evil? Did he purposely create all of these wooden soldiers? And is he like one of the bad guys, or is he really under duress? Because I mean, you see just like crates and crates and crates of these wooden soldiers, and you think, okay, well, if he had to sit there and carve all the length of time that it would have taken for him to create all of these soldiers, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, all right, well, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? And then ultimately what happens to Pinocchio, it's just, for me, it was kind of sad. I was more kind of absorbed in that part of the story than I was in Ride. She's just a jerk.
She is pretty much just kind of just the blatant kind of just, she's a little bit, I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed by, that was probably the only part of this that disappointed me, because I felt she was very just generic evil lady.
Very, yeah.
Like ultimately at the end, and maybe it's because I don't know anything about Baba Yaga. like I've never heard of that particular witch or her stories, even though they act like she's a really famous one. It's like,
right.
Like when they're talking at the end where she does battle with the witch from Hansel and Gretel, and it's like she talks about how famous Baba Yaga is and that she's not. And it's like, wait, I've heard of you. I have no idea who you are.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, who is this?
Yeah.
I have a feeling Unruly's waiting to pounce on that one.
Baba Yaga is incredibly famous.
Really?
She's Slavic, Russian in origin.
Okay.
Those people know her very well. She's like the distillation of the big bad witch.
Oh.
Okay.
And didn't they foreshadow? I think I'm trying to flip through. Her hut goes crazy on the farm.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, when her hut goes, well, that was when I was like, okay, the hut is clearly related to whoever Red actually is. But I didn't make the connection because I didn't have a clue who Baba Yaga was.
Me either. Same. Yeah. But it was really satisfying when the Wicked Witch or whatever, she just sat in her chair the whole time. Like she never got up from her chair.
Well,
and they didn't even show it. They showed them talking, Baba Yaga versus Mrs. Child Killer, which is literally her freaking name. And then, you get 2 or 3 pages of battle, and then there's Baba Yaga laying bleeding out.
Yep.
That was awesomely done.
Well, she got out of her chair. Like, you just don't get to see. Yeah. Because, like, when he goes up, he goes upstairs and he looks out the window and you see the reflection in King Cole's glasses. The chair is empty and there's something up there. Like, monsters of some sort are clearly doing battle. Like, that's the house. Yeah, John's showing the house. Hang on. I'll switch it with me, John.
Yeah, that's... Am I unmuted? No, this is Baba Yaga's house. And I was going to mention, shout out to Geek Aficionado. He says the Boogeyman. And that's, if you remember in Ant-Man, one of Ant-Man's buddies, who's like the con man, gets freaked out by the Ant-Man suit. And he's like, Baba Yaga. He's like talking about like, the fear of Baba Yaga. This is like the Boogeyman of basically Eastern Europe is like Baba Yaga. This is like a big deal. Like, parents would say, Baba Yaga is going to come and get you if you don't, whatever. Like Baba Yaga is like a legit thing. And yeah, appears in other comics as well. But like just in lore, Baba Yaga is John Wick. There you go.
Yeah, they make that mention in the first John Wick movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, known for this odd hut with the like giant chicken legs and for me, what I love about Baba Yaga is it is the zero remorse. You mentioned the granny sitting in the rocking chair, but Baba Yaga lounges on a bed and floats around everywhere.
Like nonchalant.
Yeah.
She's like Cleopatra just floating through like, I'm going to win this. This is in the bag. I love all that. And then, yeah, Simeon was saying the lightning strike. And then, at the top of the building, there's this like wild lightning strike in the middle of the battle. And then it's like, she's just dust. She's just absolute dust, and she doesn't understand. And you get this epic Frau Tottenkinder monologue, where she's like, I've never quite understood why people say that, your fame equals your longevity in the world. She's like, I never really understood that because I've gone out of my way to make sure I don't end up in fables and books. Like I made sure that people don't know about me and that my power is not based on popularity, that it's not a popularity contest. She's basically flipping the script on the comic in some ways.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, because that's the only reason that Snow White lived.
Yeah.
Was because of her popularity. But the witch was baked in an oven and she survived. So, they do kind of change the rules a little bit there.
Right.
I have a question about the rule. Because the rules related to what happens to these characters if they die or don't die don't make a lot of sense to me. So Snow basically gets her head shot off in volume 2, and she's fine. It takes her a while, but she recovers.
Takes a long while, but yeah.
Goldilocks got hit with an axe in the head, pushed off a cliff, hit by a truck, fell in the river, and I'm pretty sure she's still out there somewhere.
But the youngest
one of these fables gets shot by bullets, and to me, it's like they don't even at the end of this, they don't even give them a chance to recover. They just put them down the well, where they can't really come back. And I didn't quite understand why they would make that choice with all of them and not give them a chance to revive in any. I guess I'm a little confused about the rules related to whether or not they live or die, because I felt like the well meant, because that was why Prince Charming put Bluebeard down the well, was so he couldn't come back. And so why were they putting some of these fables down the well if there was any chance they might come back?
Geek
aficionado, this is Fables from Vertigo. There's like 20 something volumes, and but I know Simeon, you wanted to say something about the lifespan of the Fables.
Yeah, listen, you can be walking down the street, literally trip on a crack in the sidewalk, fall down, and die.
Right.
Or you can get. I personally know a guy that took 8 bullets in the freaking chest, and 4 weeks later was walking around like nothing happened. Dang. I think these rules are kind of like this, like that, I don't think when he was writing it, Willingham had a set thing. It's whatever suits the story. And he kind of throws in a random roll a die 7 to see if you live,
Yeah.
Well, and I also think the Fables don't know any better than you or I know how we live or die. So they're making their best rationalizations to understand it. Just like we might say, well, it was God chose that it was my time. That's your rationalization. You have no evidence to support that. And the Fables have no evidence that popularity equals power. It's their assumption from what they've seen. It fits their belief system. But clearly, Frau Tottenkinder doubts it and is pushing the other direction, saying, "I think there's more to it than just the rules that my society is choosing to base their existence upon."
Right.
Very, very well put, sir.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I get one every once in a while.
So let's see, we are 35 minutes in and we have not moved on to volume 5. So anything else you guys want to talk about in volume 4 before we move into volume 5? Unruly, anything we missed?
We both love this.
There you go.
Yeah, when Snow comes out and greets him, and she finally gets it. That's my favorite panel in the whole book.
I think there's probably a difference between, because like JP says he absolutely loves it, and both you guys absolutely love it. Me and Mom are both over here like, no, it was way too gory. I think there's a slight difference between us wanting the romanticism part of it and following the Bigby Snow story compared to you guys are like, yeah, wartime.
Here's what I think, and I especially think this of 5. 5 was written for men by men. And I mean, without like jumping all the way to the end of the story of 5, but there's some really, really obvious non-female perspectives that go on in 5. Like, for example, she didn't know she had 7 babies. Okay, I'm sorry, but clearly this gentleman has never popped a baby out and doesn't know that, yes, you will experience that. You will know if another child is passing through there. Believe you me.
But hey, whoa, back up. It's magic, and the 7th child is air.
And that's kind of what I thought, but like
bursting apart.
So, well, before we go completely down the rabbit hole of 5, I do want to respond to her comment, your comment about that it was about, oh, there's war and cool. It wasn't that it was the violence or anything wasn't what like drew me to this or the battle. Like the reason I enjoyed this more. It did give it some stakes for the rest of the community. But I thought for the first time during this, like, I felt like the first 3 volumes were the only thing, to a certain degree, the only thing they had going for them was Bigby and Snow. Like, with a few really nice, there were a few moments for other characters. I felt like this finally, like, made it there was enough here to actually make it a community. I started actually caring about Blue a little bit. I actually started caring about, like, this world and what was happening to it because suddenly there were actual, like, stakes, and it wasn't just them being petty to each other, which is what I felt like the first 3 volumes were, is they were just kind of petty to each other. And it's like the whole thing at the beginning, I think, really set the tone for me with Blue, of where you see where they came from and what they lost a little bit. You get a better feel for what they lost and how they ended up here. That was for me why when it got to the Wooden Soldiers and there were stakes that, like, this thing they'd escaped was still out there and was still coming for them, and they had to band together and put their little petty stuff aside. That was why, for me, this was so far my favorite volume. It's like it actually gave me a reason to care about the Fables as a group and not just about characters.
Well, and Snow really did a very good job of her battle strategy. I mean, obviously she couldn't have known that, like, by setting them all on fire, she was going to create a disaster. I mean, she really tried to execute a really good battle plan, and I really, really enjoyed that aspect of her because she's so smart in all of these series, except for 5. So it was good to watch her, trying to protect the people and that kind of thing. I did enjoy that aspect of it. And of course, you have Prince Charming
trying to run for mayor. Yeah, just
running for mayor.
Oh God, you do feel kind of bad for the mayor, though.
Hey TJ, what's going on? Thank you for hanging out with us. So, all right,
it's not necessarily the war that made it enjoyable. It conflict creates character. When you have these situations, it allows the rough edges of people to rub off on each other and reveal who they really are. That's what's fascinating about it. That's why your big themes in literature are war, love, death, blah, blah, blah. Because that's how you get to, what is that? That's lesson 1 in freaking creative writing is conflict creates character.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, little moments of like tragedy and love and loss are kind of what I love about this series. Like there was a throwaway page in like the 3rd issue with Flycatcher, who obviously I'm partisan. I like Flycatcher a ton. When he's talking to the magic mirror, and he's just he's going through a very Boy Blue Remembrance Day moment where he says to the mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the floor, can't you still find my wife no more?" And the mirror's like, "She's still lost in another land under a foreign sky, beyond my powers to see her. Sorry about that, fly." And then he's like, "But you'll keep searching, right?" And the mirror's like, "Sure, buddy, every day." Like they don't have to talk in rhyme, but they were just choosing to do it like it's just their path. Like I love the fact that they there's a familiarity between this mirror and this janitor. So those little kind of moments, I think, they're the more of them you get, whether it's Beauty and the Beast and Beast asking Prince Charming to piss his wife off so that he can rage and be out there to fight. Those little moments, I think, like Unruly's saying, the conflict of the battle and the issues that are going around them or that they dealt with in the past, reinforce their persona.
Yeah, that was actually I'd forgotten about that. That was a moment I'd forgotten to mention, but I love that moment between Beauty and Charming and Beast. And he's like hiding behind the wall just out of sight and like waiting for her reaction. And like instantly turns into a monster. It was just like instantly turns into the Beast.
And then hightails it out there.
And then, yeah, runs away and he's like, hopefully she'll forgive me later. like that is so, yeah, that is such a funny and like fun moment. And then we didn't really talk about it, but like Pinocchio has a very interesting, see, that was a character I completely disliked the way they showed him in Volume 1. I thought it was kind of lazy a little bit the way they addressed him, and like, but the conflict in him of seeing to a complete degree his brothers coming to kill them all and this torn thing of Geppetto, which I want to get into real quick before we go into the thing, but like, of who is Geppetto the adversary, like, or is he just his victim? I'm curious what everybody's thoughts are after this. But like, I thought that was I just thought that was well handled. Like, Pinocchio's torn, and like they actually put Jack on him to like keep him from doing something stupid, which he still does something stupid because. Why would you put Jack in charge of trying to keep somebody from doing something stupid? Like, of all the people, but so let's go there. Is Geppetto the adversary? Like, obviously, Unruly and John know. I'm asking Rena and Sharon what your opinions are because they refer to the Maker. The Wooden Soldiers refer to the Maker as like more than just like. As though he's the boss, like not as though he's, the way they refer to it. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. Is it Geppetto?
Even Witchy Poo Poo was like, okay, fine. When she was kind of overstepping her authority a little bit and they were like, and she kind of backed down and she was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So you do get the impression that whoever it is very, very powerful. And I mean, yeah, I admit I was curious about that. If he's in league with, I don't know that he is the big bad, but is he in league with the big bad? That was more my question.
Yeah,
that's kind of like. Go ahead, Rena. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
So to me, it does feel a little bit like. If he at one point was like a captive, that he's not really a captive, but like he's fully on board, like to be making this many soldiers and the way they refer to him. I think I would be very disappointed if it's Geppetto as the actual adversary. I'll be honest, because like Geppetto, really? Like, I guess it'll depend on how they tell the story of how he goes from the Geppetto that we've read about to this character, to the adversary, but. Like, I'm hoping that's not the way they go, but it'll be interesting to see how they get there. But I do think they really laid it on thick in this to try to like foreshadow that he is, which makes me think he's not, because I feel like it was very obvious. Like, oh, it's like they dropped way too many potential clues that it's Geppetto. If they go that way, I'll be a little disappointed because I feel like they made it pretty obvious for a mystery that they're trying to hold. It feels like a false lead to me, but I don't know.
But I mean, even the Witchy Poo mentions in the beginning when she hears Pinocchio's name and she's like, you're Pinocchio, and she's heard of him, and she's all
Yeah.
surprised. And, you know, I mean, even for her to take notice of Pinocchio, you know, was kind of like a bell ringing there. So,
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
they lay it on that, like,
do
that it's
Then
Geppetto in here. Like,
Pinocchio
it's
does?
very obvious that that's the direction they're wanting you to think, whether or not that's actually the truth or not. So that the big bad is Geppetto, which is just strikes me as odd. But we'll see. We'll see how they tell it. So, hey, Robert, what's going on, man? So, all right, let's move on to Volume 5, which apparently Sharon despises. So,
Actually liked 5 more than I liked 4.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I mean, even just like the beginning part with Cinderella and Icky.
no.
And, you know, I mean, I get that it was a segue, and yeah, there's an allegiance there between Cinderella and Bigby and stuff, but I guess I just didn't really understand why they trapped him into that and why they killed him and everything. I mean, would he have been a traitor if she hadn't have led him down that path? I mean, really, to me, he was just weak and horny, you know, and he paid the ultimate price for falling in love with the wrong girl,
Well,
you know.
Like, they talk about, like, there's a little bit in some of the, like, backstories in one of the volumes where they talk about the fact that he was, like, had basically got thrown out because he was doing some things that he kind of against the community, but not, like, anyway, like how he ended up off on his own. But so he wasn't a great guy, but I feel like that story was really just about trying to set up that, oh, Bigby has this Cinderella's actually more than just Cinderella, like a shoe store owner. And I think it was just trying to set her up a little bit as a character, and it was just a way to do it, I feel like, from that perspective. But I'm curious what John and Unruly think about the little Cinderella side story here at the beginning of this.
Well, I think it helps set up some of the stuff they explain later in this volume about there's a shit ton more to Bigby's job than meets the eye.
Oh, golly,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I think
I would
that's
say
definitely the truth. Go ahead, John.
this trade is about, even though Bigby is missing from a portion of this trade, I think the trade is about him in a big way, just like this one was about Boy Blue. You know, you have the, like Unruly saying, this first short little story, while seeming like somewhat odd and meaningless, is really just highlighting all the little pies that Bigby has his fingers in. And then we get this fun, in my opinion, fun little cameo backstory, which feels like an old Abbott and Costello Meet the Wolfman kind of a thing here. That just, it took me back to like old black and white movies in a big way, and I just loved the Wolfman versus Frankenstein in World War II. I mean, it's all just sort of like ridiculous 50s movies kind of stuff, and I totally enjoyed it for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love this, like this Sergeant Slaughter cover, you know,
Yeah.
move out, you dogs, and he's got the machine gun and he's running like he's storming the beach at Normandy or something. I mean, for me, yeah, it's a lot of building Bigby because his wife, or sorry, his lady, his kids, his dad, like this the whole trade is like, hey, this is your life, you know.
And I do feel like this trade is very much a transition of trying to get you from point A to point B. And it's basically like, okay, like we've had the first little skirmish with the wooden soldiers, but we also have all these transitions we're trying to make. Charming's now the new head of the government. Snow is now has kids and seeds at the farm. Bigby's gone off on his own. Like, they're trying to set up a whole bunch of stuff. They're trying to set up the nature of these kids. Like, I just feel like this is very much a transitional, that they're trying to tell some fun stories, but they're also transitioning to Beast being the sheriff and Beauty being in charge. And so they're trying to make all these different transitions and still tell kind of a fun story to move the story to where they're going next. I do love that they put in the World War II thing, because he dropped that little back in Volume 4. He had that conversation with Snow and he talked about, like, so it was fun to go back and actually see that. I was glad that we got to see that. So,
I love how sarcastic he was too. When he's captured and they're like, ha ha, this was the whole point, was to capture you the whole time. And he's like, you don't say. I love how he's like flip and whatever he was there, even though he was captured. I really enjoyed that moment when he was just like, yeah. I enjoyed that a great deal.
Yeah.
And the fact that they kept Frankenstein's head and they like talk later, I thought that was a really good touch too.
Yeah, he just has it in his office under a towel. It was like, oh, hey, Frank.
Yeah, I thought that was a good touch later on,
Yeah.
So yeah, that battle was really good. And I would agree with you that, he's just got his fingers and everything, because when he's talking to Beast and he's like, okay, well, you have to figure this out and you have to figure this out. And then you see the golden goose and everything. There's so many things. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I kind of struggled with just how easy Snow and Bigby just leave. They're just like, yeah, okay, whatever, bye.
I can explain that, but I mean, I feel like in a big way, it's because they're getting screwed by Fabletown.
Yeah,
Their family's getting hosed by the laws of Fabletown, and nobody's willing to help them. And they're like, well, why are we going to stick our necks out and do all these things to help a community that's basically hosing our family right now?
well, that makes sense. Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
definitely how
neither one
Bigby
of them
feels.
wanted to deal with Charming, and who could blame them? Like
Also
Snow was definitely not going to work for Charming at all.
No.
And Bigby wasn't going to work for him either because, well, he's just the ex, so he's not going to like I'm not dealing with that guy. And so why they left, I completely agree with, but I do think in the fact that they separate also makes sense, at least to me, because like she's not going to go against the rules. Like she's spent her whole like hundreds of years basically being misrule for this community. So even though she's getting kind of screwed over by it, she's not going to violate the rules, and it leaves him kind of to make a decision. But you know, and of course it's completely foreshadowed. He's like, someday I'm not going to abide by these rules anymore. I'm going to come for you and the kids. And
I really struggled with the when he's like, come with me, and she's like, no. And you're just like, okay, look, you know that he loves you. You know he's going to be a good dad, but you're still, and even her sister points it out later on in the story, that she's still clinging on to her fantasy of happily ever after and Prince Charming and all this ridiculousness. And she's just like, well, yeah. And you're just like, you just want to slap her.
Well, look, here's the deal. Every human being on Earth is to at least a tiny degree pretty self-involved. I think that marks your evolution as a human being and ours as a species is by how we care for others around us. These fables are the distillation of what it means to be human. If you notice, they're all incredibly self-involved.
Yes.
But Snow White, they don't realize Snow White's been running Fabletown for a century, doing everything that makes the community stick together, both there and at the farm, with no thanks and with no acknowledgement. And Bigby's the flip side of that coin. He's doing all the little dirty shit to keep him safe, and no one knows about it. And even if they did, they probably wouldn't acknowledge it. But now listen.
because of who he is, yeah.
I want to take issue with something you said earlier, ma'am. I totally stand Bigby and Snow White. And the babies, I think they're the coolest, most adorable things on Earth.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the pivotal reason why she says no to Bigby. She's got 7 unpredictable, half wolf, half flying beasts. She's not going to take them out into the Mundy world and just hope for the best. She's like, no, I need to be in a place with my own kind. I need to be somewhere where people can help me with like raising these things that I have like no experience with. Like me and this big bad wolf are going to do this. There's no way she thought that was a reason. And I totally get her decision in that moment. Like I am 100% with her. She has, as far as she knows, like, yeah, he loves me, but like, what's that going to be like? What's that long-term look like? This guy is as unpredictable as anybody in this world. And now I've got 6, as far as she knows at the time, I guess, 6 kids to take care of. And they're flying babies that are like little wolf children. I can't take them to Costco with me when I got to go to the market. Like, where can we hide? Where do we hide 6 kids like that in this mundane world?
Yeah.
And the
I totally get her decision.
Tailor-made.
She picks family and the farm and what she knows because she puts her kids ahead of her own heart in that moment.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm just kind of more of a romantic. I
think she is too, and I think it breaks her heart to make the choice. I just don't think she's going to show you that it does.
That
She's
could very well be.
stone cold Snow White, and she's not going to like break down in front of us.
Right.
You know,
She's
I think
not
she's
gonna
going to
break-
hold.
and she's not gonna. Yeah, she's spent over 100 years like holding this entire community together, having to be the rock for everybody. And she's still being the rock in this moment. She's like, yeah, I'm not gonna like break down. This is not gonna.
Well, and I'm
nobody's
frustrated by it too, because I know as the reader who's rereading this that it's like 3 more trades before I get a real good Bigby Wolf again. Like, I know that he's legitimately gone from the story for a long while.
All right, I'm done reading. No.
And it's partly because of the choice she makes, but I think it's partly because he knows she made the right choice. That neither one of them have ever been a parent before. They're going to go into this thing blind with 6 wild hellion kids that can fly and look like wolves. It's like, this is not going to work anywhere but within this community. We just have to make this community accept us for what we are.
Well, and the community is like completely ready for them. I mean,
Not for Bigby though, just for her and the kids.
Just for her, right? Yeah, and all the pups. But
Yeah.
I found it kind of outrageous that he's not allowed, but his crummy old dad is allowed in there.
But his crummy old dad hasn't gone around killing or trying to maim and kill them all for however many eons. So yeah, I mean, I get it. His dad is horrible, but like comes and goes. I mean, obviously he's there to train his grandchildren and serves a great function in the story as well. But
she bullies him into it.
she cons him, right? She cons him at just the right moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, to keep him distracted.
And he is nothing but ego. And that's the only reason he's there to see his grandkids. There's no affection. It's, well, these are mine, and so they must be presented to the world thusly.
Yeah.
I think this panel demonstrates him, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it close enough. I'm so bad at this. But when you see him for the first time and you see his pompous posture right there, like he just looks like such a douche. I mean, the artwork there is so good. They just convey his douchiness perfectly in that panel.
Oh, goodness.
And let's talk about the art, because the art has been fabulous throughout, and it remains that way. It's consistent. And we don't see that a whole lot anymore. You see it in these long runs. But like, in our regular superhero comics, you might have 3 months of great art and then 3 months of that dude's. There's a guy can draw better with his foot, Yeah. I love the consistency, and the style suits it perfectly. That panel you were talking about, John, where he's like, that's exactly what she should have said in this situation. That couldn't have been drawn any better.
Yeah, the art is definitely there's virtually no big splash panels. It's mostly very straightforward pages, but there's lots of detail. It's well done. It's consistent. It's not like, I feel like as an artist, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. It's not spectacular. Like, there's better art in books and stuff, but rarely do you see consistently panel to panel. Like, he's just very good all the time, if that makes any sense. Like, it doesn't have. There's no lows. There's no like crazy splash panels that are just like, oh my, like if you like Monstrous. I've been one of the other books I'm reading, like where every like these huge, gorgeous, crazy splash panels and stuff, and it's like there's none of that, but it's just solid, consistent, fits the story. Yeah, it's just really good. He's just very consistent and really good at what he does.
Well, and I think to Unruly says, I think he said something like, the art is quality and consistent. And I think, and what I would argue is that, like, yeah, it's really of a high quality in my opinion, but it's the lack of consistency that I love, where like one storyline, they'll adjust the style a little to fit it. Right. And they are very flexible in the stories they tell based on the perspective that they want to present. So that whole Frankenstein Wolfman storyline, I love the retro look of some of the sequences. I love the where is it the little like right? I love the little like almost like a journal entry, like writing bits, and then you get these black and white almost looking panels, and then you get the like full color pages, and a character like Bigby, who basically doesn't look like we're normally seeing him, but instead can dress like a gung ho, or he's in a tuxedo when we first meet him. He shows up. It still looks like Bigby every time you see him, even though he looks nothing like the way we're used to seeing him. I think there's a fun consistency. Yeah, and there is some other artists involved. Tony Atkins does some of the stuff. And then I love the border work. As they go along, more and more often, you get these border bits, right? Where it's like, hey, there's all the heads of all the
wooden guys.
Here's a panel. This topper has all the little babies across the top. I think there's a lot of fun at play here. Almost like it's less of a typical comic book and more like an old fairy tale, from Germany hardcover, where it would have all these like hand painted illustrations around the borders of the text, because it would be this huge text and then these beautiful illustrations around the outside. And it reminds me a little bit of that.
Yeah, and all these like match where they are in the story at the time. You get when he shows up, like you get the border is Old Man, is Old Man Winter, and it's just like. And the stork and the babies arrive, and you get the baby topping, and it's very, they're constantly mixing it up with what's going on in the story, and it's very cool. So, anything else about Volume 5 we want to touch on? We're a little over an hour, so let's, we don't have to wrap it up immediately, but let's, any major things you want to discuss?
I want to talk about the one moment when Snow White's veneer of there's a couple of moments when her veneer breaks. And obviously in book 4, it was when, Rena and Sharon showed that panel where she starts running through the war before she even gets to him, right? And then he's giving instructions, we need 3 teams, and then she bursts into the middle of that and hugs him. Like there's a real emotional moment that she's willing to show. And for me, it's the moment at the end when she realizes she has 7 kids.
Realizes that
she sits there and waits for the child to come to her and has this conversation of a child that she never acknowledged or could ever hold or could ever connect with, and she's just in
kid alive. Like, okay, they're like, if all the other babies are floating off, okay, how is this kid still there, and how is it causing
it doesn't feed or anything. It doesn't need, like, it can live off of just the air. It doesn't need anything. So it's just it more than likely it just felt the pull of its mother and would just follow her, and has been following her, and hasn't known really how to communicate or anything. It's just been like a lost spirit that's just been clinging to the only thing it knows, and that's its mother. And it finally gets the courage to steal the breath from somebody, and then starts to like experience another emotion, and then leads to, finally having mother sort of almost call to it, in a way without words. And I just love this like 3-page sequence where she realizes that she's the only option with this stray animal is to send it to the father, the wild animal out
stray animal.
She basically sends it. She's like, I know what you need, and it's dad, and I can never be the mom for you that I want to be for the others. And I totally lost it the first time I read that.
It's really depressing.
Bawling. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was just heartbreaking and beautiful and then it goes to the 7 cupcakes for the birthday. I was like, get out of here.
Yeah, no, that was a nice touch. That was a nice
this
touch.
last panel where the Zephyr is saying, then I can stay, and the resolute look on her face, no, I'm sorry, but they still wouldn't understand. Who can do that?
Yeah.
But that's the right thing to do. That's what needed to happen. I'm not that strong.
Whew.
There's no way I could have done that.
No.
She sends her baby away.
Basically.
And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And
but I realized that, like, so yeah, everyone, because I think that, like, the scene is pretty powerful, and you two just despise it. I could just tell. Both of them just hate that scene.
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at
TJ. TJ's on fire, man. He's on fire.
And I guess part of that is
the atmosphere around him is probably.
Yeah. But yeah, there's
so for me,
go ahead.
I just wanted to highlight that bit. It's obviously significant later. This isn't the last time we see this child, and it's not the last time we see Big B and or anything like that. But I really do. I love that moment. I think it's beautifully captured, painfully, tragically captured.
Yeah. And I don't know. I guess like I just took the whole thing of her not realizing the child exists because of the magic nature of the child, like because it's just air, it's just wind. It's a wind.
It could have been birthed along with any of the other kids and just came out. Like she would. I mean, it's not. There's no form, right? There's no substance to pass.
Right.
And if you remember, she was surprised when the doctor said, "Here comes number 2." And she's like, "What? What the hell?" And he goes, "There's probably more."
Yeah,
the magical complications of your pregnancy.
I'm not going to comment on that one. That's I'm going to leave that to the one mom on the panel.
no comment.
Yeah.
But
I will have to laugh. The look on her face, and that when she realizes how many kids she's about to have, and she's like, "I'm having a litter," and he just ignores it and just keeps going. He's like, "I'm not answering that. I'm not responding at this point. I cannot."
Well, and I guess another thing that I kind of found as a discrepancy was that I think that Big B would know, because he's not even in the room with her. And he can tell how she's feeling. He can tell how many babies she's had. And he's not even in the same room.
Back to that, because he says something during that.
That right there, John. Exactly. Yeah. So he would have known about the 7th baby, in my opinion. If you say it was magic and she couldn't feel it coming out. But he would have definitely have known.
So the one thing I'm curious about that, because there's one more to come, and he says 6. Like that she's already had 6, and there's still more coming. Like the way they word that there is confusing as to whether he knows or not. Like I was a little bit confused by that. Like I went back and read it, and like, because he's like, pretty sure this is the last one or whatever. But he's already, like, before she actually has the last one, he's already talking about the number 6, and she's at the end of her endurance. Like, so I'm a little confused about whether he knew, but then he didn't, when there were only 6, he didn't say anything until they got so that was a little confusing to me, because it was almost like he knew, but then later he didn't act like he knew. So.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a discrepancy for me big time. the seventh baby, it's heartbreaking and everything, but it was just a little bit unbelievable for me on all those layers. Just because, like I said, having a baby, you kind of know these things, but it's a story, and it, like you said, it's magic, and you can kind of chalk it up to that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as far as her not knowing that she had more than one child, yeah, that is a little odd that she wouldn't know, or that the doctor wouldn't have been able to tell her in advance that you might be having more than one.
If there's 7 kids in there, you're gonna feel that. You're gonna feel like feet and hands and that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's why I made the point earlier of saying this was written by men.
But as far as Bigby not knowing the other, they make a big point over this run, pointing out how Bigby knows very little about his ancestry and understands even less about how the North Wind and all of those things work. He has worked really hard to go the other way and be as unaware. I mean, the only connection really is the ability to huff and puff. That's really all he's got from that side of his family. But his children can do so many things that he can't do. And grandfather even says it's just because they're willing to be taught, and I can teach them when they're young, versus Bigby, who wanted nothing to do with me and eschewed everything.
In their lives, though, I mean, that's why ultimately the mother dies, is because he drop kicks all of them and leaves. That is why Bigby grieves and hates that side of his family.
Hey, wait, are we getting the spoilers? Wait a minute, this is not part I've read.
Okay, so maybe I know
Stop
a little
talking.
bit that I'm supposed to.
What happened to? I didn't go ahead this time, Rena. What happened to? I didn't read ahead.
Before I knew Bigby from trade one.
She's slightly obsessed with Bigby, just a little bit. But the witch knew. I mean, the witch sends that card, and she's like, "Congratulations on your 7 children." And everybody's like, "Ooh," I mean,
but Bigby's already gone when she gets the card. He's not there for the card, but
I just think because of Bigby's limit, I mean, all of them never heard of a Zephyr before. Nobody in the entire community had heard of this before.
True.
And Bigby would be in that same group because of his purposeful denial of that side of his life, and the fact that he's kind of sheltered himself intentionally from it. So I feel like, I mean, yeah, maybe he could sense or smell something, but I think he gets such a limited time with his kids that I think in the end, I can buy that he just wasn't. He never came aware that there was another kid. I don't buy that mom wouldn't know she had more than one child, but yeah, the Bigby not recognizing the Zephyr, I totally get it.
Yeah, Frog, child killer, she senses it through her magic. Bigby, no matter how acute your snout is, I'm pretty sure you can't differentiate air from air. That's my theory.
Yeah, maybe.
But he still has to have some sort of substance because,
soul.
because he can talk.
And and you get the impression he killed the baby lamb.
Y'all are trying to put the limiting laws of our known physical universe on magic. It doesn't work.
That's true. They are trying to
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So,
and yes, I would agree with you. 5 after 5, it's too crowded. It's too much. Too much.
I'm thinking before you got to 5, but
well, John, you had all of those sticky notes in there.
What else you got, John, before we wrap this up?
We touched on a ton of them. I shared a ton of them. I love the little moments, the little reveals. We didn't really talk about how they did not get rid of Baba Yaga, and that Frau Tottenkinder is just basically, I don't want to say torturing her, but certainly reveling in her victory and grilling her little by little. And they're grilling all the wooden soldiers and storing all their heads on little rack. And let's interview Mel today. Let's interview Tom on Friday.
So I do want to go back to the Baba Yaga thing Bigby Beast takes over as sheriff.
Yeah.
And Bigby reveals Cinderella, who only Bigby knew she was working for him.
And the goose.
And the goose and several other things. But he does not reveal that they left Baba Yaga alive.
Right.
So Beast does not know. Like, they just know that Frau, what's her name? She just goes into the catacombs every day. And they're like, they have no idea why. So he did not reveal that. That was just between him and Frau. Like, that Baba Yaga is alive. So right now, the only person that knows that she's down there is. So I found that was interesting that was the one thing. Well, the one thing that we know as the audience that Bigby did not reveal to Beast. There may be other things that we don't know yet. But I was just going to
say that makes you wonder what else he's got.
Yeah, it does make you wonder what else he didn't tell him about. So, but I did find that interesting. And then, and I will. There's a moment in here that I love. Just talking about Beauty and Beast trying to take over for Snow and Bigby, where Beauty's trying to figure out how to do something, and the monkey chimes in, and it's just like. She's like, I'm going to kill that monkey, because he's just like, well, she worked here for like a century or what? Yeah. Well, Beauty, she was part of the government since before Fabletown was established, back when we had dozens of people running this place. She had centuries to learn the ropes and worked her way to the top position. And she just stares at him with like grimacing. And he's like, should I stop talking now?
Well, and they're both trying to like figure things out. I mean, because like Beast is so proud of himself for letting Flycatcher go, and and he's like, "Oh, I'm such a great guy. I'm so compassionate. I don't understand why Bigby kept you in captivity all this time. You can go." And he completely misses how he's devastating this man's life.
Yeah, and Rose is like, go clean up your mess.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many little touches in there. When you get swept away by the big story, you kind of forget the little touches too.
No.
But I mean, that was definitely a moment when you were like, "Oh, he's so sad that he doesn't get to go mop the floors every day."
And then, like, there's the other moment I really love that we didn't talk about was after Charming wins, and he's in his little celebration, and he goes up to the witches about hey, we're gonna have to figure out a rate. Maybe we could get a bulk rate or whatever. And they're like, yeah, no, the reason we charge so much is because we don't have that much power. We can't do this very much. And he's like, what? I promised. And they're like, we know. Maybe you should have talked to us first. That whole conversation, and he's just like, oh no. Like,
the fact that he got elected was kind of a surprise to me. I did not think that they were going to elect him.
These people are shallow. Like, the vast majority of them are so shallow.
But isn't it a wonderful comment on
Charming?
John, don't say it. I know exactly what you're thinking, and you're right.
Isn't it a wonderful comment on popularity contests and how sometimes just the charming moron can win? And ultimately, he's named Charming for a reason. I mean, he just is a great speaker. He charms audiences. The moment when he's first campaigning and he says, "We got trouble right here in Fable City," which straight out of the Music Man, he's doing like his little spiel.
He's making all these promises without consulting whether or not he can actually back them up. And
he's just selling. He's just selling. And he finds angry, disgruntled people and can sell them an idea, even though he has no chance of ever delivering on it.
Yeah. Well, here's one thing that we didn't touch on. Where did all the money go?
What now?
From the treasury, where'd all the money go? Remember at the end when the guy comes to Charming and he's like, "You're missing billions of dollars."
Yeah, one of the things is gone, and and we did not talk about Blue choice.
Yeah.
Pinocchio. Yeah.
You take Pinocchio's body, what's left of Pinocchio, and the sword and the cloak that he used to escape before, to go back. Which I assume it's probably going to be the next volume talking about homelands. I assume that's what that's about. Is that, yeah.
Yeah, this is Homelands. There's the adversary right there, and there's Boy Blue down there, and yeah, I mean it's exactly what you're. Yeah, that's this is oftentimes people say this is their favorite.
Really?
I know that
Okay.
Whitewell Comics kind of calls this the peak, and that there's a lot of great stuff after this, but for him, this is like a high watermark. But again, more war. It's more war, and that kind of stuff.
It'd be pretty cool to have that Vorpal blade in real life. If I were Emperor and had the Vorpal blade, this world would look like a berserk bowling alley. There'd be so many heads rolling around.
Well, that makes us glad and really.
There you go.
Be very glad I have
The
no
show
power.
on.
It really does not have power. This is a good thing.
And I'm on your side, hopefully.
All right, so an hour and 20 minutes. Last thoughts on where the story's at and where it goes from here. Unruly, what are your thoughts about these two volumes and how it leads into what comes next? How it fits?
I've already said, I'm such a huge fanboy. I can't really come at this with any real critical sense. But I must not have ever heard you and Alec talking about it, John, because to me, it just builds and builds to the end as far as I'm concerned. You got the next little arc, then what you think is the final yay arc, and then there's a big bad after that, and then it all comes together. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Okay.
Totally 100% unreservedly. This is in my top 4 or 5 comics of all time.
Nice. All right, Sharon and Rena, you guys did not particularly enjoy these 2 volumes compared to 1, 2, and 3. So where are you guys at on this? Are you wanting to keep going? Are you like, I'm done with this?
I'll keep reading. Yeah, I mean, John so kindly sent us 6, so we're hooked up on that. So, yeah, no, I mean, I'm curious enough. Like JP, like you said earlier, I'm reluctantly invested in the characters. Like I want to know what happens to Blue. I mean, and of course, White and Bigby. But I mean, there's other characters like now. Does Pinocchio come back? I have to know. So there's all these other little sidebars that I'm curious about.
Okay. John, what about you? Where are these volumes kind of fit for you in the overall picture, and what comes later?
I mean, I haven't reread these in a good while, so it's possible, Simeon, that I mean, for me, 3 still holds such a high watermark that I love all of them. There's no a bad Fables trade is better than a lot of good, a lot of the best from other stuff. And it's one of those few sort of epic runs where I do have every single trade. There's just not that many. And it's like Why the Last Man, 100 Bullets, and this. I do love the setup. So 3, 4, and 5 for me, it's all setting up the Bigby Snow love story, and so it's some of my favorite stuff. I do enjoy the war stuff. This is a refugee, like I said, comic, and the war that they fought and escaped, and the many wars ahead. Like it all is it's the grist for the mill in this story, and it creates the powerful character drama. So for me, I do really think these are some of the best, and we're right in we're getting into the meat of this story right now.
Okay. I will say, like I talked about this at the beginning, that I did not enjoy Volume 1. And Volume 2 was better, but not great. Just for me, because the only 2 characters that had held any interest for me were Bigby and Snow. Volume 3 was better. Like Volume 3, I felt like charming story came around to the point where I was like, okay, not that I didn't like him still, but like at least I had interest in what he was doing a little bit with Bluebeard, like the whole Bluebeard thing. I started getting a little bit invested, but to me, this is so far the high watermark. Like as far as getting me invested in like the world as a whole. The wooden soldiers are just a riot to me. Like, I realize they do horrible things, but I laugh while they're doing these horrible things, I guess, because it's just like the way they go about it is just so ridiculous and yet perfect for what they are. And yeah. So for me, this is definitely, so far at least, the high water mark, and it's got me more actually willing to go along, as John knows, to keep going. I had him pick up some more volumes for me today that he's going to send me. And yeah, and I think Mean Seasons Volume 5 for me was a little bit uneven, but it's just because it's mainly just a transition storyline. It's basically moving you from A to B, so whatever comes next can happen. And it's like, okay, we got to get so we've broken down the world a little bit. We got to get all the pieces back into the places where they need to be for whatever comes next. And so, but yeah, I'm enjoying it much more at this point than I was early on. So, with that, you guys got anything you want to pitch before we get out of here? Unruly, I know you don't make stuff very often, but you got anything that or any other shows you're going to be on? Like, I don't know, like in a week?
We're doing Wicked and Divine at some point real soon, correct?
Nope. I didn't have them facing the right way. Next week. Next Tuesday. Okay. We had to postpone, but we're coming back next week with volumes 2 and 3 of Wicked and Divine on Tuesday. So, yeah. So come back. Unruly will be joining me again with Los and Gorilla Todd is the crew for Wicked and Divine. Sharon and Rena, you guys got anything you want to talk about real quick?
We have Chad on this Saturday. YouTube is 90.
Nice.
And then just the book signing stuff we mentioned at the beginning.
But you'll hear a lot more about that. So yeah. So, but yeah, I Love is back. So tune in and say hi.
Yeah. Thank you for hanging out, Dusty Brick Brown. I appreciate it. So, John, you got anything? I know you don't on YouTube, so
yeah, I don't do a whole lot. Saturday, I got the morning show with my girls. I'm off on Friday. Nothing Friday. I think it's my only day off in like a 2-week period. But Saturday night, I got we're doing our last time travel movie discussion. We're having Lost in Comics and DS Comics joining us because they're big time travel movie fans, and they were asking all along, can we get in on this discussion? So they're going to join us. We're going to do a little Q&A with them about some of their favorite time travel movies, moments in time travel movies. Is it a time travel movie? Have some fun chats with them on Saturday night. And Sunday, I'm with you for some good old Dungeons and Dragons, and then other stuff next week. I don't know.
Yeah. I want to say a quick thank you to everybody. I did hit 1,200 subs today, which is insanity. Or at least I assume I'm still there. I don't know. Sometimes no, it still says 12. So thank you for all the support I've gotten. I really appreciate it. There is no weekly look back this week. One of the things didn't even do a list this week 6 months ago. So I took the week off, which given the week I've had was a good decision. So I may or may not do Cash or Trash this weekend. I don't know. We'll see. But I will be back with my whatever show on Sunday night and then go play D&D. And then next Tuesday we are talking. I got one of them upside down. No, they're right. They're both right side up. Wicked and Divine next week, volumes 2 and 3. And then, yeah, and that's far enough out. I'm not going to worry about further out than that. So I want to thank everybody for hanging out, and we will. Sorry, DJ. It's just 1 week. So, and we will catch you all next time. Later, everybody.